Eric, what did you feel of the resolve of your team tonight to score 2 late goals?
I think, we by design wanted to be able to finish the game strong. I think it's another one of those situations where it pans out as you would, to an extent, as you would hoped prior, in the sense that we were able to spread minutes well across the group. We were able to keep Saturday in mind, and we were able to finish strong and win the game. And I'm certainly not without my criticism in terms of how we were able to handle what for me should have been relatively straightforward moments that we typically really do handle well as a backline, and we didn't. And it's a very obvious threat that they pose in that sense. They cross well, they attack the box well. We've talked a lot about that obviously over the course of 2 games, so there is some disappointment there, and I know the players will be disappointed, and I know there's been comments about that already, and that's it speaks to the group. I think that the first thing that they talk about when they come off the pitch in that situation is how disappointed they are to have conceded the goals and how self-critical some of those guys are in there. So that's pleasing in one sense, but I think the manner of coming back into the game, you always felt like we'd be able to finish that game strong, and I think once we got the second goal, you always felt the third would just be around a corner.
Was the second thing the players talked about how Anthony Markanich is carrying the goal-scoring load for this team?
Yeah, there's a good buzz around Anthony in the changing room at the moment. I can tell you, he just had one of those nights, and he's on a really good run at the moment. He's a super reliable player. He's a great lad, really coachable, really dialed into the game plan, and someone who puts everything into every day. And he's now getting his rewards because he's also had some really high quality moments, and the set play moments stand out, of course. But his first goal, he took that really, really well, and he's got a really nice knack for being able to get in behind the back line. His movement timing's good, and he's got good quality when he gets in there. So I'm really pleased that he's really going to push Joe Rosales in that position. And over the course of the first 14 games and the two Open Cup games, Anthony's made a huge contribution to this team, and I'm pleased because as a character he deserves it, and he's really popular in the dressing room, which is a big thing.
Going into the game plan a little bit, you heavily rotated the squad. St. Louis, on the other hand, relied pretty heavily on their rotation from Saturday. Honestly, what was your thoughts on that, and did that affect how you were planning it going into the second half?
Yeah, well, we've got a small squad. I'm conscious of how the summer months went last year, and I want to make sure that we're very disciplined in making changes where we need to make changes, and we keep what is the biggest focus in mind. We've got to make sure that we are competitive and in our pursuit of playoff positions, and we want to make sure that we meet that objective. And I feel like tonight we obviously took a relatively balanced approach to it, in the sense that we kept a couple of the guys in who had started the game on Saturday, but I think overall the approach has and will pay off in the weeks and months to come. And I think it's so important in MLS to consider not just, certainly in this period, not just Wednesday, Saturday, but also how we look in June as we start to lose players to the Gold Cup, and we want to make sure that we've got players that are in a good rhythm, and we're not accumulating load that is going to lead to injuries in an unnecessary way. So I feel like we've done a good job on that, and we made some good decisions.
You mentioned kind of seeing things from the guys in the dressing room. Who said what, and kind of what did you take away from that?
No, I know Morris was very disappointed with arguably both the goals, but certainly the second one he picked up on. I think he was very close to Klaus. He was in a position where, with Morris's physicality and the level of aggression, dominance that he typically shows, I think that's a goal that he'll look back and be really disappointed around. But I would also say Klaus is very good in those situations, one of the best in the league. We do a lot of preparation around him and his threat when we play against them, so I think that would probably add to Morris's frustration, in the sense that he know what's coming in that situation. And I would let him off the hook slightly, in the sense that we have to do more to keep the ball out of the box, and that's been a running theme of ours over the course of the last couple of weeks. We're defending the box far more than we need to, and we have to be much better toward the side of the box. We have to be more aggressive in defending 1v1s and stopping crosses coming in. But ultimately, it is going to come in against them, because that's the way they play, and when it does, you have to deal with a big physical threat. So we got away with that for sure, and that is something that we will pick up on.
What did you see from Wessel Spiel in goal tonight?
Yeah, he's a very commanding presence for someone who hasn't played a load of senior games. He for sure has the obvious physical attributes that are very helpful against a team that plays in a direct way. I don't think he was necessarily able to sort of show those to its fullest extent, but he is one of those goalkeepers that at set plays you look at and feel like he can really help you. His kicking distance is very good and was good tonight. I felt like he made some good decisions around when to play short and not. He obviously starts the move off that leads to the first goal with a really nice clip pass out to the left-hand side. So I think he's shown multiple elements of his game tonight, and we're obviously making that decision tonight in mind, with in mind Dane going away to the Gold Cup in the coming month, and we want to make sure that between him and Alec we've got some really good competition there, and I think that's certainly the case, because as you remember last year we really suffered over the course of those months for not having goalkeepers in the rhythm that they might be. So I think again, given how the game's panned out, I'm able to look back at that decision and feel like it was a really good one, because now he's played a number of games in this competition and across the second team games as well. He will be in as good a rhythm as possible to really push Alec for the coming month.
When you talked yesterday about Kelvin, you said he kind of needs maybe a little bit of calmness. Did he show that on that goal?
Yeah, and I was really pleased for him, and he worked really hard tonight, which is the main thing. I feel like if you're in Kelvin's situation, you're desperate for a goal, and he's someone that's very self-critical and really pushes himself, then first and foremost you've got to keep doing what is required from a team perspective and defending with real discipline and diligence, and he did that, and then he took his goal really well. So I know that will be for him, just knowing the character, knowing how he thinks about things as a goal scorer and a sort of high profile number 9 relative to our situation. I feel like he will really benefit from that tonight, and I know everyone will be pleased for him. I will also say actually on that, I think him and Tanny, they showed a real level of maturity when they were playing alongside one another to finish, because they made good decisions as to when to look to one another and not, and that's obviously something that they're probably out of the rhythm of at a really high level, based upon the fact that we've sort of gone away from playing with the two of them. But I felt like they had that connection was immediately very visible.
When Hartel scored to even the matchup 1-1, you made some changes immediately right after that. Were those changes planned to take place a little later, and did you move those up because of that goal?
We'd had those changes in mind for a situation like that, where we felt like we wanted to finish the game strong with a really attacking intent, and you felt like it was a very open game, open from start to finish. I would say they had a couple of good chances, we had a couple of good chances, but open games suit Robin and Joaquin when they come on and they play as a pair. You feel like they're only a moment away from creating, and I think when you add to that a threat on the back line with Sangbin and Anthony, as he showed, and then you're adding to that Kelvin and Tanny, you feel like you've always got a good chance in an open game. Unfortunately, Joaquin does what he's in the habit of doing at the moment, which is unpicking the defence with a really good pass to Anthony, and then we've got players making the box there that are absolutely desperate to score. So I always felt like having that in our back pocket would stand us in good stead in that situation, and I'm pleased it paid off.
You've played, I think, 18, 19 players this week, something like that. Do you feel maybe better set in terms of squad depth for the June period when you're going to have guys gone than maybe you did last year?
Yeah, I think we've obviously kept that period in mind when we've made these changes over the course of the last couple of weeks, and I know there will be players that will really benefit from that. And I would also add that we've used the second team as strategically as we possibly can over the first couple of months, and we've put players in some awkward positions where they're flying midweek to play a game in Colorado and other situations of that type. But I feel that's paid dividends, because there's now players that have got 4 or 5 90 minutes worth in their legs, and as we get into June and the inevitable difficulties that period will bring, we are at least as well set as we can, bearing in mind the parameters of our squad and the depth we have. But I think this week has been really pleasing in that sense. Good. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.